Imagine sitting down at a restaurant and seeing something unusual on the menu. Chicken, beef, pork, fish, and then, right at the bottom, you see gorilla. You'd probably stare at the menu for a second, because even though gorillas are huge, powerful animals with large muscular bodies, almost nobody thinks of them as food. And that raises an interesting question. Why don't humans eat gorillas? Is gorilla meat poisonous? Does it taste terrible? Are gorillas simply too difficult to hunt? Or is there a much bigger reason we never turned them into another source of meat? The answer involves biology, behavior, history, culture, and conservation. And it starts with something surprising. Gorillas are actually close relatives of humans. Gorillas are great apes, just like chimpanzees, bonobos, and orangutans. They aren't monkeys. And while humans and gorillas follow different evolutionary paths, we share a surprisingly large amount of our biology with them. That means the idea of eating a gorilla can feel very different from eating a cow or a chicken. But biological similarity isn't the main reason humans don't eat gorillas. The first problem is much simpler. Gorillas aren't easy animals to turn into food. A large adult male gorilla can weigh hundreds of pounds and possesses enormous physical strength. Its body is built for climbing, moving, fighting, and surviving in a difficult environment. This isn't an animal humans domesticated for agriculture. You can't simply put a gorilla in a barn and treat it like livestock. Gorillas are intelligent wild animals. They live in social groups. They have complex relationships. They communicate with one another, and they protect their families. Trying to capture or kill one would be extremely dangerous. But here's the interesting part. Even if gorillas were easy to hunt, that still wouldn't make them a good food animal. Why? Their diet. Gorillas aren't specialized meat-eating predators. They mainly eat plant material such as leaves, stems, shoots, fruits, and other vegetation depending on the species and habitat. That means a gorilla spends much of its life processing huge amounts of plant food. And this creates an interesting comparison. Humans have domesticated animals because those animals provide a practical food supply. Cows turn grass and other feed into meat and milk. Chickens can produce meat and eggs. Pigs grow relatively quickly and can reproduce efficiently. Gorillas don't offer the same agricultural advantages. They grow slowly, they reproduce slowly, they require specialized environments, and they're not domesticated. So from a farming perspective, there's almost no reason to choose a gorilla, but perhaps humans could simply hunt wild gorillas. Historically, humans have hunted many wild animals for food. So why not gorillas? This brings us to one of the biggest reasons. Gorillas have very little incentive to become a normal food source. Imagine you're a hunter looking for meat. You could search for an animal that is relatively common, reproduces quickly, and can provide a reliable source of food. Or you could attempt to confront a massive, powerful, great ape living in dense forest. The choice isn't difficult. A gorilla is an extremely risky target. And there's another problem. There aren't enough gorillas to support widespread hunting. Gorilla populations are limited to parts of Central Africa. Different gorilla populations face different threats, including habitat loss, disease, and human activity. Some populations have become particularly vulnerable, so hunting pressure can have serious consequences, and this is where the story changes from simple curiosity to conservation. Gorillas aren't just another wild animal. Several gorilla populations are threatened, and protecting them has become an important conservation priority. International and national laws restrict or prohibit many activities involving gorillas, so for most people this isn't a question of walking into a forest and deciding whether gorilla meat sounds tasty. The animal itself is protected, and there is a very good reason for that. Gorillas are valuable alive. They play important roles in their ecosystems. They help move seeds through forests. Their feeding behavior can influence vegetation, and their presence is part of the larger balance of tropical forest ecosystems. But their value isn't only ecological. There's something else humans find fascinating about gorillas: their behavior. Spend time observing a gorilla family and you'll see something very different from the image of a giant monster. Gorillas can be calm. They can be curious. They can be playful. They form strong social relationships. Adults protect younger members of the group. Young gorillas spend a lot of time playing and learning, and groups have their own social structures. This makes the idea of eating a gorilla even stranger to many people. We're not looking at an animal that humans traditionally classify as livestock. We're looking at an intelligent, social great ape. And that matters because humans don't decide what counts as food based only on biology. Culture matters enormously. Think about the animals people eat around the world. Some cultures consider certain animals normal food, while other cultures find the same animals completely unacceptable. Food traditions develop over thousands of years. People eat what their ancestors ate. They eat what is available. They eat animals that can be raised efficiently. And they avoid animals that have a different cultural meaning. Gorillas ended up firmly in the category of wildlife rather than livestock. There's another interesting question though. Could gorilla meat actually be eaten by humans? The answer isn't simply poisonous. Gorilla meat, like meat from other wild animals, could potentially carry parasites or infectious organisms. Wild animals aren't raised under controlled food production conditions, and great apes can carry diseases that are capable of affecting humans. This is particularly important because humans and gorillas are biologically similar. Close biological relationships can mean that some pathogens are capable of crossing between species. That doesn't mean every gorilla carries a dangerous disease. It means handling or consuming wild great ape meat can create serious health risks. And that's another reason this isn't something people should experiment with. But even if you completely remove the disease issue, gorilla meat still wouldn't suddenly become a popular food. Why? Because there is simply no practical advantage. We already have much easier sources of meat: beef, chicken, pork, fish, and many other domesticated animals. So why take the enormous risks associated with hunting or handling a gorilla? There is no compelling reason. And then there's perhaps the most important factor of all. Gorillas are worth more to humans alive than dead. A living gorilla contributes to its ecosystem. It supports conservation efforts. It attracts researchers. It helps people understand our evolutionary relatives. And gorillas have become powerful symbols of wildlife conservation. People travel to see them. Scientists study them. Conservation organizations work to protect them. And millions of people around the world have developed an emotional connection with these animals. That doesn't happen with every wild species. Gorillas occupy a special place in human culture. They're enormous, they're intelligent, they're expressive, and they're surprisingly similar to us. So when people see a gorilla, they usually don't think, "That would make a great steak." They think, "That's an incredible animal." And perhaps that's the simplest explanation for why humans don't eat gorillas. It's not because gorilla meat is magically forbidden by biology. It's not because humans are physically incapable of consuming it. It's because almost every practical, ecological, cultural, and ethical reason points in the opposite direction. Gorillas are difficult and dangerous to hunt. They reproduce slowly. Their populations are vulnerable. They aren't useful livestock. Their meat can carry health risks, and they're protected by conservation laws in many places. Most importantly, humans have no need to make them a food source. We already have animals specifically raised for food. Gorillas have a completely different role. They belong in forests, they belong with their families, and they belong in the wild. So the next time you see a massive silverback gorilla standing in a forest, remember something. That huge body might make you think it could provide a lot of meat, but the real story isn't about how much meat a gorilla could provide. It's about why humans decided that some animals are far more valuable alive than on a plate. And for gorillas, that's probably exactly where they should stay.